I woke up bright and early just for the Medicare for the Lazy Man podcast. The Medicare podcast with a bad attitude. One of his hands washes the other, Medicare expert Doug Jones.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another thrill-packed episode of the Medicare for the Lazy Man podcast. My Canadian nephew, Drew McMillan, may have told you that I am your Medicare expert for today. My name is Doug Jones. I couldn't be happier to have you here. And just between us, if you want to learn about Medicare, one of the best ways to do that would be to go to your local Amazon.com website or your BarnesandNoble.com website and type in Medicare for the Lazy Man 2024 into the search window. And you're going to find a book there that will help you immensely if your goal is to learn about Medicare. It's going to deliver the Medicare knowledge in a fairly painless perhaps even a fulfilling way. It's going to make you feel happy that you actually decided to study about Medicare because all the information is presented in a fairly lighthearted manner, kind of like shorthand. There's nothing too ponderous or too complex. And if a particular chapter isn't to your liking, it doesn't really apply to your situation, all you have to do is turn the page and there's something else that probably will apply to your situation. This is not a 450-page compilation of laws and minutia. It is a lighthearted look at Medicare and what the typical Medicare applicant or the Medicare participant has to do in order to enroll in Medicare. Now, if you've got a weird situation, if you've got an unusual situation, maybe federal employee health benefit involvement or something like that, you may want to do a little more research, or you may want to contact me. My contact information is in the book. It is there for you to use in any event that you may want to learn about something about Medicare that you don't know, or if you think it's time for you to sign up for Medicare. Help you sign up with the Medicare part, but I can certainly help you with the ancillary coverages that round out your health insurance protection. Help you with a supplement. I can help you with a drug plan. I can help you with dental, vision, and all of that other stuff. So if you don't know what you're doing when it goes to Medicare, first get the book if you'd like. And then your next step would be to contact me and I will help you through the rest of the process. That's what I love to do. And that is my pledge to you. I don't have any pledges to share with Randy Carson. I gave up a long time ago. He kept repeating them after I had forgotten them and it was just disappointing. So I'm just going to say hello to Randy. Hello, Randy.
Hello, Doug.
It's a pleasure to be with you again in this this post Biden world that we're in. We've just for historical context, we've lost a Democrat candidate and gained a new one, and so our heads are spinning.
Well, the world is in a really crazy place right now. But having said that, I just thought I would point out to the audience today, this is going to sound really weird, but we got a wonderful day going out here in Cave Creek, Arizona, and it's only 102 degrees, which sounds really hot to some folks, but as you know, Doug, out here, that is perfect.
That is a really comfortable temperature. Absolutely. So you said we're having a good day going. Is it just the weather or is there something else interesting happening that I should know about?
Well, the other good thing I can tell you about is I don't have any dental appointments or any proctoscopic appointments like you did earlier this week. So,
well, not only that, I've got another dental appointment tomorrow. So it's not exactly as much fun to look forward to. But if I were in Arizona right now, I'd probably still have to make a dental appointment because I've got a cavity that's got to be taken care of.
But I heard your dentist told you, Doug, this was on your earlier appointment this week. Doug, your teeth are in good shape, but your gums have got to go.
Oh boy. Well, that's one problem I've never had, but they're always looking for it because I think that's a real big source of income for dentists. They have their tooth
Yeah.
cleaners poking and prodding and say, you know, something, your gums could be in better shape. Be in worse shape too, lady. Quit poking me.
Well, yeah. Now, because I've been in a dental family pretty much my whole life,
Yes.
and well, I've been spending most of my time recently in a dental chair.
Yes.
That thing that you're talking about poking with,
Yep.
you know what the official name for that is?
The gum poker.
That might work, but that's not what they call it. They call
What?
it a probe.
Oh God, that's horrible. That just that dredges up all kinds of unpleasant memories. When you were talking about the temperature being perfect, I was drawn to my memories of when we went to school in Tucson 50 goddamn years ago, Randy. 50 years ago.
Now, let me. Did you show up for school down at U of A in a stagecoach?
No, it was Corvette. Actually, it was two mid-year Corvettes, a 63 and a 65. No air conditioning in either. And so I eventually traded one of them for a 65 Impala with air conditioning, two-door, hardtop.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that trade was made with my friend Clarence, who was a guest on one of our podcast episodes.
Yeah. Well, the
So,
other thing I was going to mention, uh, those of you on the audience who are just jonesing,
okay, we'll applaud later. Go ahead.
jonesing to get to Tucson. What's the name of that studio down there that closed up for a while, but they are now revamping it and opening it?
Okay, it's a difficult name. You better get your crayons and construction paper and take down this specific name. It's called
Okay.
Old Tucson.
Old Tucson.
Old Tucson
Oh my God.
Studios.
I should be able to remember that. But
I would
I'm
hope
going to
so.
go down there and see. I've been there before,
Uh-huh.
but I'm going to go again as soon as they get that opened and renovated.
Go to the website because they have specific hours and specific days. And I think they've got a steakhouse there so you can rustle up some grub while you're there. I haven't been back since they reopened it, but the guy who bought it has kind of an interesting background. He was I guess, an executive who made good, but he loves trains. And so he is the owner of several tourist railroads in
Yeah.
various places, like narrow gauge railroads that go through scenic areas of Colorado, maybe. And so he bought Old Tucson as kind of an adjunct to his railroad empire. And
Oh, okay.
so I think you're going to have a good visit. If you do, I'd like to hear all about it when you
So
come back.
do you suppose this guy that just bought it and is renovating it, do you think he could make the route a little bit different so they could get the Union Pacific big boy through there?
Probably not. That big boy doesn't make turns very easily. That thing does not go around corners.
No, and for those of you who are not railroad fanatics like I am, the Union Pacific
And
big boy.
count me in there too.
Oh yeah, Doug and I love railroads. But what boy our age didn't want a train set? But anyway, long
Yep.
story short, the Union Pacific big boy, for those of you who want to do a little research, is the largest steam locomotive in the world. And the
Absolutely.
Union Pacific has kept it running all these years in good shape. And the one short story I'll tell you about it is one time they got a bunch of diesels, Union Pacific diesels, stuck on a curve coming out of Fremont, Nebraska. They could not get them moving. Guess what they did?
I'm guessing they called for big boy.
They brought Big Boy in, and he pushed them all in one great big line around the corner. This thing is an amazing piece of machinery.
It really is. And it's heavy too. They have to prepare the track in some places if it's not strong enough. What they did was they took it out for an excursion tour. I'm going to say maybe 5 years ago. And it came down from up north, wherever it was. And it went from, I think, in Minneapolis to Wisconsin. And then it came to Chicago. But on the way to and from Chicago, it came right through our little town of Geneva, St. Charles, Illinois. So we all got to see it. People ran out there to take pictures and everything. It was pretty
So
cool.
you got to see it with your own two eyes?
Not me. I was otherwise occupied. I think it was in Arizona when it happened.
Oh, cool. But long story short is I'm still one of these days I'm going to put up a new train set. You know how you used to do it around your Christmas tree?
Well, I never did around the Christmas tree. I always had it in my room upstairs. The first year I got it, 1953 was my first Lionel
Yeah,
train
yeah,
acquisition next to the Christmas tree. It wasn't really around it. But
yeah.
I never wanted tree sap and needles to get in the way of my performing.
Well, that's true. That's true. Well, you know something? We probably ought to make some money.
All righty. It sure is fun going down memory lane, though, and I do dearly love my train sets. I've got a smaller house here than I planned on, so I'm going to have to build an addition in order to be able to set up my trains again. In any event, so what we do at this point in every episode, it's almost so predictable you can set your watch by it, is we ask Randy to choose an article for our Medicare Advantage Minute. And Randy will then look through the list carefully. He will be selecting an article that he thinks the audience is just going to love about Medicare Advantage plans. So, Randy, they're numbered from 1 to 20.
1 to
You
20.
you have to pick out a number that we have not used before and that you think would enjoy.
We're going for number one, Doug. Number
Oh
one.
boy, geez, number one, make it tough on me. Okay, so here we go. Number one it is, and I'm going to put the rest of them aside for our next episode. I'm already collecting a pretty healthy slug of Medicare Advantage articles for our next batch. Once we get to number 20 and we have to throw away this list, then we'll be starting out with a whole nother slew of Medicare Advantage articles. But this one today that Randy has selected has the headline Medicare Advantage to change for millions under new plan. And I don't know how accurate we can expect it going to be because it was published, or this article was printed in Newsweek back in June of 2024. And Newsweek is a magazine that when it was last sold a few years ago, at least when I was aware that it was sold for $1. Now, that doesn't tell me that Newsweek is a very valuable organization, but let's find out what their article about Medicare Advantage plans is all about. So a new bill would change Medicare Advantage for seniors, and many might benefit from faster prior authorization times. A bipartisan group of senators proposed improving seniors' timely access to Care Act. The act is entitled Improving Seniors Timely Access to Care Act. That's not a tongue twister at all, is it? This act would make prior authorization processes more efficient, enabling seniors to get faster treatment and reduce unnecessary paperwork. Senator Tim Kaine, a Virginia Democrat, said prior authorization is the biggest administrative problem healthcare providers face as they're required to get pre-approval for treatment. That's not in Medicare. This is only in Medicare Advantage, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't get a Medicare Advantage plan, you're never going to hear, or so rarely as almost never hear the words prior authorization from a Medicare and Medicare supplement plan. So anyway, the healthcare providers face this problem. They're required to get pre-approval for treatment, which can lead to long wait times, communication issues that can deprive seniors of the care they need when they need it. Older Americans should not be forced to wait to get critical care because their providers are busy dealing with a mountain of paperwork. This bipartisan legislation would streamline healthcare processes to ensure that Americans covered by Medicare Advantage can access the care they need more quickly and enable doctors and healthcare providers to direct more of their time to their patients. Under the bill, there would be an electronic prior authorization for Medicare Advantage that would increase the transparency around the Medicare Advantage prior authorization requirements. It would also increase the protections for recipients, and it would require the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services to report to Congress on the program and the electronic prior authorization process. The CEO of Smile Insurance Group said there's likely to be pushback by Medicare Advantage plans. Medicare Advantage plans claim to use prior authorizations to manage cost and reduce unnecessary medical services. However, prior authorizations are viewed by many medical providers and patients as an unnecessary barrier to care. Currently, most Medicare Advantage beneficiaries often have to wait 7 days. 7 days. Medicare Advantage people, members of Medicare Advantage plans, have to wait often 7 days for a standard medical order to receive prior authorization, while expedited orders can take as long as 72 hours. But under the new legislation, those times could be much shorter. I think the bill has a very good chance of being passed, Fong said. Some potential arguments by insurance companies would be the additional cost to implement the electronic request process and the additional staff that would be needed to process the prior authorizations within the shorter time frame. If the time frame were to be decreased by half for standard and expedited, it can be argued that the insurance company will need to potentially double their prior authorization team. A financial literacy instructor at the University of Tennessee said making prior authorizations quicker would be a game changer for many seniors in Medicare Advantage. One of the greatest burdens many Medicare Advantage recipients encounter is the red tape associated with getting approval for medical services. This process would look to reduce barriers on the front end so patients would have a more streamlined procedure for making use of their benefits. Still, providers may have concerns about what it would require on their end. From an implementation point of view, it's also hard to say how difficult prior authorization would be to implement on a large scale. Great idea, but it's not clear yet if it's going to be as easy to implement as some think. So, once again, prior authorization is one of the big bugaboos, and if you are a Medicare Advantage participant, it might behoove you to consider getting out of there before your health deteriorates and you are unable to do that. If you're healthy and you think it's time to move to a medical or a Medicare plan, Medicare with a supplement because the protection is so much stronger, then I'm your boy. Give me a shout via email, probably is your easiest course of go to Randy's old website. It's kind of creaky and it's showing its age, and we're getting a new one already, but medicareforthelazyman.com, and you'll find a questionnaire then. If you answer some questions about your demographics, then I will send you quotes for a Medicare supplement plan. And if you're healthy, we'll have the option of saying, hey, you know something, I'd like to change from my crappy, scary Medicare Advantage plan to a Medicare supplement plan that might be a much better deal. So moving on, we at this time in every episode also talk about commercial spots that our sponsors have picked out specifically for us. And I think it's time that we listen to a few and see if their selections are to our liking. All righty, back from what I hope was a string of very, very expensive commercial spots. All the money, all the revenue from the commercials goes right into our Christmas party fund for the Medicare for the Lazy Man staff. Randy wishes that some of it were tracked to the so a few minutes onto each episode. He thinks we should always additional time, but frankly, I say leave them wanting more. In this case, we desperately hope that you want more when the podcast episode ends. At this point, I typically like to get into the Wikipedia page for Medicare. It is a sizable store of Medicare knowledge, and I've been reading just a little chunk of it every episode because I want to share the history and the construction of Medicare, at least Wikipedia's version of it. And this time we're going to read about out-of-pocket costs. No part of Medicare pays for all of a beneficiary's covered medical costs, and many costs and services are not covered at all. The program contains premiums, deductibles, and co-insurance, which is what the covered individual must pay out of pocket. A study published by the Kaiser Family Foundation in 2008 found the fee-for-service Medicare benefit package was less generous than either the typical large employer preferred organization plan or the federal employees health benefits program standard option. Some people qualify to have other government programs such as Medicaid pay premiums or all of the costs associated with Medicare. Now, I have to step in here and say they're measuring Medicare without a supplement. And I would never suggest that anybody enroll in Medicare without a supplement to round out the coverage. So let's talk about the premiums. Most Medicare enrollees do not pay a monthly Part A premium because they or a spouse have had 40 or more 3-month quarters in which they paid Federal Insurance Contributions Act taxes, FICA taxes. As the benefit is the same no matter how much or how little the beneficiary paid, as long as the minimum number of quarters is reached. Medicare eligible persons do not have 40 or more quarters of Medicare covered employment may buy into Part A for an annual adjusted monthly premium of either $248 for those with 30 to 39 quarters or $451 a month for those with fewer than 30 quarters. Most Medicare Part B, as in Bravo enrollees, pay an insurance premium for this coverage. The standard Part B premium for this year is $174.70 per month. A new income-based premium surtax scheme has been in effect since 2007, wherein Part B, as in Bravo, premiums are higher for people who have incomes exceeding $103,000. For individuals, that's for individuals, and then 206 or 8,000 for married couples filing jointly. Depending on the extent to which the beneficiary's earnings exceed the base income, these higher Part B premiums, which we call IRMAA, IRMAA, income-related monthly adjustment amount. The IRMAA penalty could be higher depending on their earnings, but there is an upper limit to what the government will charge for you. So that is some of the out-of-pocket costs in the Medicare program, and we'll have more talk about your out-of-pocket costs as a Medicare beneficiary at some point in the future. But let's go to Mary's favorite part of the show. She loves it when I talk about correspondence with some of our clients and some of our prospective clients. And that's what I've got today. It is time to deal with a Patricia. Now, Patricia called me on the telephone. Pretty unusual. I don't know where she got my number. I guess, I think it was on my business card or something, but I asked her later how she found me. She said her doctor's office referred her to me, but then I asked what practice it was, and it was a practice that I have never been treated by. So I think the word might be spreading out there that Medicare for the Lazy Man is going to treat you right if you have Medicare questions or if you want to better Medicare protection, your Medicare health insurance protection. First thing I wrote to Patricia after our telephone conversation, during which she told me, I am sick and tired of Medicare and insurance. And so I thought that was a fantastic way to start a relationship. She said, is there, in fact, a need for me to have a Medicare supplement? And I said, there are two reasons why I think you would agree that it's a good idea. First of all, the 20% portion that one pays for Medicare Part B expenses. Medicare itself pays 80%. You're expected to come up with 20%, which sounds like a drop in the bucket unless something really bad happens. There is no stop loss on that 20%. It could go on. If you have treatment like, let's say some knees in my family, there are a couple of knees that have been replaced, not mine. That was probably an aggregate total of over $100,000, maybe $120,000. The 20% that I would have had to pay for that would have been a substantial amount of money. So I have a Medicare supplement that pays most of that additional cost. The other reason is because I know of clients and potential clients who did not have Medicare supplements and were turned down for treatment that they felt they needed. One person had been diagnosed with multiple myeloma, and her doctor said it would be a good idea to harvest stem cells in case they were needed for future treatment. She was asymptomatic at the time, but knew that things could go south. And at some point, he said it would be beneficial to you if we had your stem cells ready to go for treatment of your condition. And she said, okay, how do I do that? And he said, well, give us your insurance information and we'll go to town. And when she gave them her Medicare card and said she had no supplement and no other health insurance, the hospital turned her down flat. They said, and she said, look, I've got substantial personal resources that I can draw upon. There will not be a problem paying any amount at 20% of the coinsurance. I'm not going to have a problem with that because I have been very successful and I come from a successful family. And they said, sorry, not enough guarantee for us. We will not perform any sort of procedure on you unless you have the necessary coverage, and Medicare supplement was that necessary coverage. Then I talked to somebody else who had a history of cancer, and the cancer was in remission. A lot of people like to say, well, I'm cancer free and all that. And doctors know that that's a relative term, sometimes a temporary term. He can't find anybody to treat him because he only has Medicare. He does not have a Medicare supplement. So the two reasons to have a Medicare supplement are A, to pay the the exorbitant cost of medical treatment, and B, to ensure that a medical practitioner is not going to turn you away if you need treatment. And frankly, they can't turn you away in the event of an emergency, but they can certainly turn you away in the event of an elective procedure that's not an emergency, that you say, I need treatment. Everybody agrees you need treatment, but if it's not immediately necessary, like in an emergency situation, you're going to have a tough time not being able to get treatment because you don't have a Medicare supplement. And it's going to be tough to find a Medicare supplement company that's willing to sell insurance. It's like a homeowner's insurance company selling insurance to somebody whose house is on fire. That's just very difficult to have happen. So anyway, Patricia called me and she said, basically, I had a Medicare supplement. I had Plan F. I've been around for a long time. And she said, somehow I wound up in a Medicare Advantage plan. I did not want to get a Medicare Advantage plan. I wanted a Medicare. And I'm sick of paying this. And she told me how much it was, like $190 a month just for what had been the supplement. But now she's in a Medicare Advantage plan, doesn't know how she got there. And I said, look, it was a pleasure speaking to you today. And I look forward to attempting to improve your situation with respect to Medicare. Here's a little questionnaire that one of my insurance companies makes their applicants fill out. So if you're healthy enough to answer no to all these questions, then we have something we can sink our teeth into. And she wrote back to me and said, all of my answers are no. And I said, that's excellent news. The plan I suggested from United American, this company, my favorite, would cost $74 per month instead of $194 or whatever she's paying now. It would require you to pay an annual deductible of $240 plus 20% of your expenses up to a limit, and we can discuss this in greater detail. Blue Cross Blue Shield has the same plan available at a somewhat higher rate with no medical questions, maybe about $80 a month. That's a speculation. So I said, judging by what you've told me, the savings would be more than offset by the risk of having to pay. The savings would more than offset the additional risk of having to pay that deductible and your 20% share in the event that medical expenses are needed. So it seems like this would be worth pursuing. If you agree with that, the next step is to discuss your current. If you had a Medicare supplement, we could make this change happen quickly, perhaps as soon as next month. However, you tell me that you somehow became enrolled in a Medicare Advantage plan without your knowledge. If we let this situation stand, the earliest we can make the change to the United American High Deductible Plan G would be January 1st. We could do this application ahead of time and make sure of the approval, but one is not allowed to disenroll from a Medicare Advantage plan except at certain times of the year. If you would like to switch plans ASAP, we would have to have your Medicare Advantage plan enrollment reversed on the grounds that it was done without your express consent. If my thinking is correct, this would put you back into a Blue Cross Blue Shield Medicare supplement plan from which you can change to the United American plan without waiting until the end of the year. I don't know when or how your plan was switched from Plan F to the Medicare Advantage plan, and I don't know how anxious you are to jump through the hoops necessary to change the plan I suggest. Your thoughts? So that's the last I heard from Patricia. She has not yet responded, and maybe she's disgusted by the thought of insurance and supplements and all of the jargon and perhaps all the unfortunately the people that she's had to deal with in insurance obviously have left her with a bad taste in her mouth, so I may never hear from her again. I hate to be on the end of that string of people because I think there are probably a couple of ways I can help improve her situation. I would certainly like to help improve yours, ladies and gentlemen, if in fact you find yourself stuck in a very expensive Medicare supplement plan, or if you're stuck in a Medicare Advantage plan, it may be possible to help you out. So I have a kind of a thank you note from a client that he's under age 65. He fell 30 feet off of a roof when he was on his job, when he was on disability, Social Security disability income for 2 months. The federal government gave him Medicare, and he knew from listening to Randy and I chit chat that Medicare Advantage was not the place for him. So he went shopping for a Medicare supplement plan. And I found a company, he's in Virginia, and I found a company that was able to give him a Medicare supplement plan. And I wrote him to tell him his application has been approved and the policy has been issued. They will be sending it to your home shortly. The policy number is such and such. Thanks for allowing me to assist you in this process. It's been a pleasure working with you. Also, thanks for the that you left. I forget where he left it. I think he might have left it on for the book. And his answer was, Doug, my pleasure on the review, and thank you very much as my new agent. And a big thank you to you and Randy for the podcast. I either have a little peace pipe or a shot or two afterwards. The podcast is very much enjoyed by many. So that was nice to hear that Randy and I aren't sitting here just talking to hear each other talk, that we actually have somebody out there who's happy to hear us. Medicare Advantage articles posted somewhere is the notation I made. This is Howard. Howard wrote in, and I was confused by his original question. He said, do you all, so I think Howard might be from the South, said, do y'all post these articles on Medicare Advantage problems? And I didn't understand at first what he meant. Later, I figured it out. I said, I'm guessing here, but I think you might be receiving emails announcing the latest Medicare Advantage podcast episode we've released. I spend considerable time on discussing the pitfalls that can be encountered when one has a Medicare Advantage plan. And he said, I'm talking about the hard copies. Just a thought. And then he said, probably a pain to scan and post them into the episode site. Thanks anyway. And I finally, the darkness was lifted and I understood what he was asking. I said, okay, now I understand. No, that thought never occurred to me. You're the first to ask. And he was asking if we have on our website Medicare Advantage articles that people can read. Now, there are pros and cons to doing this. We can goober up the website with a lot of stuff that maybe nobody wants to read. One reason I'm thinking about not doing it is that this Medicare Advantage situation is in a state of flux right now. We don't know how it's going to shake out. And so I'm not sure it's good to post a lot of articles on the website about Medicare Advantage that are going to be quickly out of date. But what I said to Howard was, let me talk to my technical people. That's Randy. He's my people. And I said, I want to see how much it would cost me to have them posted on the website. This is a good idea, but we're designing a new site, so it may be better to wait until that new site is live. But I sure do appreciate the thought. Thanks for sharing it with me. It was fun to talk to Howard. And now I've got a new prospect, a new potential client. And I sent him quotes for Medicare Plan G and Medicare Supplement High Deductible Plan G, which is the one that I recommend for almost everybody. And I said, in fact, the figures would indicate that this certain company would be the best in your situation. And he said, hi, Doug, please call me Frank. Thank you for your quick response. Then he said, here's the meat. We cut right to the bone. He said, I don't really feel comfortable with the high deductible Plan G options. I watch the videos. I always send a little animated video describing the way Plan G and high deductible Plan G operate. They're very easy on the eye. They're 3 minutes. This video is 3 minutes long, 3.5 minutes long, I guess. And it explains, I think, very thoroughly how these Medicare supplements work together and which one is preferable and why. But he said, I watched the videos and I ran the numbers myself. A couple of years of hospital visits can eat up the difference really quickly. So turning to the straight Plan G option, where do I get information on the quality and customer satisfaction of the listed plans? In cost order, they are, and here are the ones I quoted for them: Wellevy, Cigna, Humana, Aetna, Mutual of Omaha, and United American. And then he said, tossing out the highest and the lowest leaves Cigna, Humana, Aetna, and Mutual of Omaha. So my thought is, he said, is anybody worth the additional cost over Cigna, or should I just consider going with Cigna? So what I would tell Frank is that I'm really happy that he wants to go with a Medicare supplement Plan G, because what he's going to find is that it's a more expensive alternative, and I'm going to make a lot more money from him. But in reality, the Medicare supplement Plan G, he and I will have periodic conversations, because the premium increases will eventually get to be onerous, and he will say, what can I do about the increasing cost of my health insurance? If he goes with the high deductible Plan G, I'll make less money, so I'll be unhappy, but then I'll be happy that he is going to be satisfied with this product for a much longer period of time. So that's the short version. I've got to figure out a more diplomatic way to say that, but also I got to figure out a diplomatic way to apologize to Randy for going overtime today. And I'm hoping that he will overlook my verbosity.
Well, you know something? I do have one question. As you know, we've run out of our 75 cents worth of time. But I do have one question. Early on in this particular episode, you said that it was your understanding the last time that Newsweek was sold, it transferred hands for $1.
That's what I heard.
Okay. Did you know that they dickered even over that price?
Well, I guess it shouldn't surprise me. Some people will never, ever be satisfied with the first offer. I was listening to an interview with a rock star who he started his own tequila. I think it's tequila company. Yeah. And eventually somebody came along, a Mexican company came along and said, hey, we want to buy your tequila company and we'll give you $40 million for it. And this guy said, nah, I enjoy the business. I enjoy owning a tequila company. I don't think so. And I can make money, playing for sold out crowds and stuff. So then they said, well, we'll give you 50 million. Nah, I'm not interested. Well, we'll give you 60 million. And then finally they said, well, what number would be a life-changing amount for you? And he said, 100 million. And they said, okay, done. Who do we make the check out to?
Done.
Obviously, they didn't do that for the Newsweek magazine transaction.
No, they didn't. But, we need to go ahead and land the plane here. And I think we're going to come in on 36 left today. And there's a few things that I always need to take care of. Grab your pencil, folks. dbj@mlmmailbag.com. You can reach out to Doug any time of the day or night with that email address. He checks it 24/7. He never sleeps, is what I'm told. And don't forget, he is licensed in every state of the union nationwide to help you with your Medicare supplement planning. Check us out at the website, MedicareForTheLazyMan.com. We're building a new one, as he mentioned. And in your wanderings through the wilds of the internet, or should I say the jungle of the internet, we would appreciate it if you could find a place to drop us a couple reviews. It's always important to us because it's all about the numbers, and we're still trying to outrun the travelogues. We have won several years in a row. We are ahead of the travelogues, and I want to stay there. last but not least, thank you for joining us. You could have been anywhere else doing anything else, and you weren't. You were with us, and that's where we like to have you. And if you didn't check, you have just spent about 32 and a half minutes with Doug Jones, the anti-insurance insurance guy, originally from Oklahoma. And I'm hoping next month he will be back in his fortress of solitude in the high mountains behind Cave Creek, Arizona. But right now, he is down about 741 feet, I think, in Illinois.
32, but who's counting? 732 feet. There's a lot more oxygen here, but I still love my Cave Creek, and I'm waiting until next month with bated breath to head west, and until that day. Actually, until the next episode, we'll be looking forward to seeing all of you join us again as we look forward to every episode. So thank you so much, and I'll say bye-bye.